Welcome to Recently Logged, where this week we're talking about a 3-hour Animal Kingdom ad. It's a very effective ad. I'll be returning to the Animal Kingdom soon.
Wow. Well, hello there, people.
Hi.
People of the podcast space. I don't know. Is there a defined term for that?
The audioscape.
The audioscape.
Hello,
Wow.
people of the audioscape.
My name is Robbie,
And I'm Mika.
and together we form Recently Logged.
Wow.
It's a podcast.
It's a podcast.
About movies.
Wow.
A specific movie this week.
I never would have guessed that.
The one that is an ad for Animal Kingdom.
Yeah. So we're in the middle of a series, if you could tell from the last episode. But whenever we do series, we try to not just do like the movie and then the next movie and then the next movie and then the next movie. This came about when we were doing our longer ones, like Mission Impossible and
The Harry Potter one,
and
yeah.
We weren't just doing a Harry Potter movie every week.
My goodness.
And this week, I guess just because we wanted to, and because of the Way of the Water trailer dropping.
Exactly.
We wanted to rewatch Avatar and talk about it, because we hadn't watched Avatar for
for forever, dude.
Probably close to 9 years or something.
I mean, we didn't even watch it in theaters. We watched it on a rental, I don't know, 2016, 17, probably later than that.
Probably earlier than that.
You think earlier?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I remember watching this a long time ago.
maybe my memory's wrong. But yes, the big reason is because the Way of the Water trailer, or a teaser trailer, dropped, and it was very popular. And
Plus, Ravi's just been sitting around going, I need to watch Avatar.
I know.
Rewatch Avatar.
I was about to say, I watched.
Oh.
We went to Animal Kingdom, which has a big Pandora section, which is the planet from Avatar. And I'm
Yeah.
like, whoa, this rocks. This is pretty metal. We need to go watch Avatar again.
And Animal Kingdom, because we went to Disney for our vacation and went to all 4 parks, and Animal Kingdom was by far my favorite afterwards. And
Shame.
the Pandora section was definitely one of my favorite parts. So.
Yeah, no. If I were to revisit just a section of Disney World, I would probably just go to Pandora again. It was pretty good.
If we were doing this video along with audio, I would have my little banshee on my shoulder, because I bought a little banshee.
He did. He got a little banshee.
But
he's Mika's #1 Avatar fan, as it turns out.
I spent $80 on a banshee.
He bought the banshee. But yes, we're talking about James Cameron's Avatar this week, so let's go ahead and go over what you need to know about it.
What do we need to know about it? Alright, Avatar is a 2009 movie, rated PG-13. It is 2 hours and 42 minutes. Its little IMDb description is, a paraplegic marine dispatched to the moon Pandora on a unique mission becomes torn between following his orders and protecting the world he feels is his home.
So that description goes off the rails so fast. It's like paraplegic marine, and then it's like is sent to the moon.
It won an Oscar for Best Achievement in Cinematography, Best Achievement in Visual Effects, and Best Art Direction.
Wow. I mean, well deserved, honestly, for the art direction and visual effects.
Its cast features Sam Worthington, Zoe Saldana, Sigourney Weaver, Michelle Rodriguez, Stephen Lang, and others.
Is that the guy from Arrow, the lead in this? I don't think I recognized him. Doesn't that look like the guy from Arrow?
Who do you mean as the guy from Arrow?
Is it?
Because I don't think he's
I might
in Arrow.
Okay, I'm wrong. Okay, he just looks really similar to
Not the guy who plays Oliver.
No, yeah, I think that's who I was thinking of, but no, that's not him. I don't know who I was thinking of.
Written and directed by James Cameron.
Wow. That explains the dialogue.
Oh, no. The score is by James Horner.
I love you, James Cameron. No offense. No offense.
A lot of James is working on this.
A lot of James in the credits.
Oh, I was about to say maybe the cinematographer might be named James, but it's Mauro. I don't know how to say that.
Mauro Fiore. That's my guess.
And yeah,
we suck with any international name,
right.
unfortunately.
And we don't plan ahead to like actually look at any of these names before we sit down.
I mean, would it be a good idea? Probably. But yes,
that is what you need to know. That is Avatar.
That's Avatar.
The Last Airbender.
The Last Airbender. Yeah, I wonder if we'll get any people being like, "Oh, they're talking about The Last Airbender," and then they're gonna be so crushed,
and they're gonna instantly see papyrus.
And
they're gonna be like, "No, this is not The Last Airbender."
Shout out to Avatar's cultural impact. No one wants to use papyrus anymore.
Robbie, Did
anyone use papyrus before
Robbie,
this?
Nobody wanted to use papyrus before this movie. James Cameron was unhinged for choosing papyrus as the font.
I mean, like, at least with like the sequel and everything, like they actually designed a logo for like Avatar now. It's not just papyrus, but like it's so funny to me that it's just like beefy papyrus now. It's very funny. But yes, that is Avatar, and now we are going to say what we thought of the movie.
What?
Hello?
What? Robbie, the cohesion of this episode, we just went, and hello.
I'm so sorry.
Viewers don't know what's going on.
I didn't know how to break the silence for the new segment. All right, so Micah, what do you think of James Cameron's Avatar, just in a general sense? I figured we'd just kind of summarize.
You see, the thing about James Cameron's Avatar is it's very good.
Yes, that is true.
But it's a little too long.
A little too long?
And not all of the story moments work at all.
Okay.
But the character
At all?
The character beats and the world building is genuinely outstanding.
Yeah, I mean that. Yeah, okay. To go over what I think, I mean, I would generally agree with everything you said. I think it's kind of like, I don't know, it's kind of like if the Star Wars prequels were great, you have Avatar. That's what I'm saying.
What?
Like, I don't know how to describe it. The screenplay that James Cameron has written here has a lot of really great ideas and touches on a lot of it touches on humanity in sci-fi a lot better than most modern like sci-fi blockbusters do.
Yeah.
Has a real sense of humanity to it, and that's really rare to find, especially nowadays.
Yeah.
And that honestly, that like sense of humanity is what anchors you throughout the entire movie, because it is rather long and it is a bit overly long, I think. But during its like really long runtime, you get to know all of its characters really well, which are actually like just really fun to hang out with most of the time. Even though a lot of the story beats can be a little monotonous, but a lot of the time they're building out not only the world, but a lot of the themes of the movie and stuff like that. I don't know. It's a really beautiful film, groundbreaking. I think what like Jurassic Park was to like action blockbusters back in the 90s, this was to like 2010s action blockbusters.
I agree with that statement. I would say that this, which is crazy, but I would agree that this movie is probably just as influential for the time.
Exactly.
As Jurassic Park.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like Jurassic Park, like groundbreaking stuff happened there for like action filmmaking going forward. This basically is that for the 2010s like field of action movies.
You know what's really weird though? Mm-hmm. Is like so many people are like they rewatch it now and they're like, overrated trash. It's too long. It's so boring. Like
it's so beautiful.
Like, do you just come in with it? Like, because I could see finding this movie boring. Again, absolutely, I do not think the plot is very good. Like straight up.
I think there's some niceness to its simplicity, but yeah.
But like getting into the movie literally just takes like getting into the characters, which is really easy to do. So like if you don't like what are they doing? Are they on their phones just like sitting over on the side being like, whoa?
Wow.
Because like I really like a lot of what's going on in the movie, and I think like I put in my review that I genuinely like with just how well the world is made and how well I think the characters work. Mm-hmm. I would genuinely just love to just watch hours more of just Pandora.
Right? Yeah.
which is crazy.
Yeah, honestly, that's like, I think that's this movie's like strongest aspect, is just its world building, and the way it touches on its themes is so good. Like the rest of it just kind of falls into place.
Yeah, I was right to memory that like the villain, everything to do with that is just so kind of bleh.
It's very cliche, but I think I would argue that it works a lot of the time. It
No,
really
it
only dips
does.
into being like kind of like, oh my goodness, what is happening right now territory like a few times. I think the kind of cartoonish bad guy works a lot of the time for this.
Yeah. Just to get it out of the way, since we're like at the beginning of the discussion,
Yeah.
I rated the movie 4 stars both times that I have seen it.
I think I rated it a 3 the first time I watched it, and I've slowly bumped it up. I think it was a 3.5 or a 4 when I watched it this time, like for this podcast. And now when I watched it a second time, I gave it a 4.5. I think it's great.
That was a very
Fantastic.
confusing way to word that.
Yes. Okay. I didn't rate it very high the first time I watched it. I gave it a 4.5 this time.
Yeah. So let's like, do you have any questions we want to get into?
I do. We mentioned that the world building is really great. Do you want to expound upon that? Like, what makes the world building so great?
I mean, clearly, like right off the bat, one of the things that makes the world building so gosh darn effective in this movie is that like James Cameron is a perfectionist and put so much thought into Pandora. Like genuinely, when you look and watch Pandora, more so than in like almost any other sci-fi I've seen, even stuff like, take Star Wars for example. Their planets usually are pretty good, but they're usually like, yeah, that's a thing. This feels like so much thought was put into like every element
Right.
of its natural environment, of its creature designs. There seems to be like common ways creatures are designed and breathe and like exist, and very like everything feels so in depth and really really beautiful to look at, that the way it kind of presents it to you through the beginning of the film as this like, everybody's heard rumors about Pandora, that's that moon we've discovered and gone to with the unobtainium.
The unobtainium. Oh no.
That they frame it in this really interesting way to slowly build you up and slowly build you up until you get into the jungle of Pandora, and even to the society where the Na'vi live, and like it's just really really interesting to watch.
Yeah, it's man, it's a mesmerizing movie. Yeah, like that entire middle section is just so delicious.
Like literally, I think the movie could have just been 90% Jake learning the ways of Pandora, and
Right.
I would have loved it.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I would tend to agree with everything you just said. Obviously, I think it's just an incredibly well thought out and layered sci-fi world, really unlike anything I've seen in sci-fi. Like, it's kind of crazy.
Yeah, and I think honestly part of what gives it its ability to be that is that the world itself centers around what its main theme is. Like the world itself is a character in its central theme.
Exactly. I was going to bring up the fact that Pandora is basically just a giant brain moon.
Yeah, it's a
and
brain
and that
moon.
adds such a like neat dimension, not only from like, oh, that's cool, but like from a story perspective, it's really like cool as well. While you're watching it, you're like, oh, that's actually pretty neat concept. Who knew?
Yeah, which plays into its very Hayao Miyazaki-esque themes.
Right.
This is just like James Cameron's Ghibli movie.
Wow. I mean, true. Yeah. But yeah, no, one thing I wanted to mention on the topic, you mentioned Jake earlier. What do you think of Jake as a main character for this story? Because I think obviously he's like very essential to the story happening. Like obviously, like the fact that he's an ex-Marine, that sort of thing, playing into the Na'vi finally accepting an outsider. But I saw a lot of people criticizing this movie as like a white savior movie. and I just don't really see it that way. And I wondered what you thought about that.
Well, as two white guys sitting
Yeah, I was about to say.
I don't know. Me personally, I never felt like this was a very good direct allegory for race.
It's not. That's the thing. It really falls apart if you try and look at it as a racial allegory.
Clearly, it's going for like environmental stuff and also commenting on the fact that we like colonistic societies, the colonizers, if you will, have done terrible things to get resources and killed off tons of indigenous people.
Exactly.
That is there, but it is not saying. I don't know. I don't think there's a direct parallel to being like these are indigenous. Like these are. Like, I don't know. It's not focused on race.
Exactly. No.
It is never like.
And I was going to bring that up. It's not about.
It's about nature.
Exactly. It's about becoming more connected to the world that you live in, and not really about race at all.
And throughout the movie,
which is why it doesn't really work as a racial allegory.
I think what I'll touch on this on is throughout the movie they don't treat them in like the Na'vi in a racist way because of how they look or how they're like speak or anything like that. They treat them in a quote unquote racist way because of the way they interact with nature. They call them primitive for the way that they want to live and protecting and preserving their nature.
Exactly.
So I don't think it fully works in terms of being like white savior-y. I mean, it's still kind of weird.
No, it is weird.
That like Jake is the one who comes in, but I try not to view it under a race thing because I don't really think that's what the movie is concerned about. And maybe I'm wrong. Anybody who actually has any skin in the game.
I was about to say, I have no authority to say it, but I would tend to agree with that reading of like, oh, sorry, I forgot to silence my
exactly.
Yes,
like,
I would agree with that
like
reading.
This reading does not affect me at all. Anybody who has skin in the game, I know some people who don't really like some of the uses of even the way they set up the Na'vi in terms of language and cultural usage of what they stem from.
Yeah, it's an interesting line this movie walks, because like they're inventing an indigenous race for an alien planet, and like obviously since it's an American movie, they're gonna draw off influences that'll feel like foreign and native to Americans, and it ends up feeling a little gross at points, but I think on the whole it works.
Yeah, again, no skin in the game.
Yeah, exactly. Coming from a white guy, I think it works. I just thought it was an interesting angle to view the movie
I do, because one of the weirdest things going into this movie, I actually made a joke about it when we were watching, that this was just Diet Dune, is that it very much feels like it's like it almost falls into that like outsider coming in and like leading, like end up taking over and kind of leading them.
Yeah.
And that's always a very interesting line to walk.
Yeah.
But from a story standpoint, this movie didn't really have any other option than to do this because it needed to be about, you know, humans fighting to take away like the nature and the world from the Na'vi, and they needed some connection other than just like them casually warring against each other.
Yeah, no, I think honestly, from my perspective anyway, I think this is like the best way you could possibly handle a story like this.
Yeah.
By making it a fully fleshed out sci-fi world of its own, rather than drawing too heavily off of anything else. Trying to make it as alien as possible is good, I think.
Speaking of which, what do you think of all of like the nature-y elements? like the way it plays into the story.
What do you mean?
Like the big like nature wars essentially in the movie.
I mean, I don't know, like thematically or
just like I was just gonna like bring up the war part of the movie with the nature in general.
You know, I don't really know. Like, I don't really have much of an opinion on it, honestly. I don't know. I'm trying to think of like what you're looking for here, because I don't know.
I just think this is
like
one
just
of,
the actual like one of the conflict.
Yeah,
because
I think
third act.
this is where like the big part where the kind of I think the story kind of falls apart a bit
Yeah.
is the interaction throughout the entire movie of our two antagonist peeps, Mr. Rich Man and Mr. Insane Military Man.
Yes.
They never really have, I don't know, I feel like they never really connect in any way that feels like they have any stake in going after nature as a character.
Well, see, the thing is, Micah, those two characters are not really characters at all. They're really just like vague caricature.
No, I
What is
know,
that word?
caricature.
Of just basically capitalistic and military like gain in America, obviously.
I know.
Yeah.
It's just I get that they're supposed to be like, that's the vague idea over there, but at the same time with that I think they needed to like just use the work on the characters more, because I never feel any, I guess, strong conviction from any of the any of the opposing side that gets me connected to like, because I get why they're doing it, obviously, like there's a reason, but it never feels as harsh as it is.
I mean, I could see that. I mean, I think the military guy, actually, they give him like a really good sense of on-screen presence, and like, I don't know, that was just me.
I think the military guy is kind of goofy.
Okay.
He's like, gotta live to fight another day on Pandora.
I have never played Call of Duty, but I imagine all of the
scars.
Call of Duty characters are like that. I've never. That's what I imagine.
Marine.
Exactly. Yeah. I don't know. I think he works pretty well. Like obviously, I think the war part of this movie is its weakest section. I think a lot of the like combat stuff is actually really fun and really good. It just does a weird. It takes a weird route for upping the stakes.
Here's how hard, because this is kind of what I was feeling about it.
Okay.
So you have your two parties, technically your three parties in our human element. We have the scientists, the military, and specifically capitalist man.
Yeah.
And I feel like capitalist man is like, he's hiring the military people to do this, but at the same time it really feels like, in terms of the movie stakes, that what's his face is in charge. But yet every time he goes out, he doesn't seem to like I've seen nothing of why he's here, why he cares. So every time he goes out, he's just like doing this like major like, I have a feeling they're not gonna come nicely. I think we're gonna have to genocide everyone kind of thing, but for no conscious reason to me.
You want him to be a character, Micah. You want him to have a character.
Yeah, I want him to have it because like he just doesn't make sense as a villain, and I think it plays into why none of the conflict for the war feels that great. Like take that before they fight, like before they blow up the tree scene. Like you feel kind of nothing. Like you're like, oh no, Jake, he's tied up, but like you don't really feel anything about the encroaching danger except for like, oh no, these characters, oh no, the tree.
I can see what you're saying. I would argue really the only stakes the villain has in this is just from a professional standpoint. Obviously he's a very prideful person, and all of the stakes for him as a character are wrapped up in not failing at his job.
Yeah, I know, but they do it in such a weird way. He never like on terms of like the job and everything, they never show you like anything of how they're harvesting the unobtainium or what they're doing. Like everything about the villains is so vague.
I was about to say, it's literally the military in this movie just functions as the arm of capitalism in the most crude way possible.
Like they're just a shadow. Ooh.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it works pretty well.
No, I like the idea of doing it like that, because it gives it more time to focus on everything in Pandora, and I think that's good.
Yeah.
But at the same time, for as long as this movie is and the way its conflict builds, I think that's part of why the conflict does not feel great in a lot of scenes. Like why it doesn't feel like it gives it as much weight as it should have.
I guess so. I will say I'm a big fan of how they continually raise the stakes throughout this movie. Like from a conflict perspective, the way it gets grander and grander, I think, is really nice. And it helps build tension over such a long run time.
And one of my biggest things that I didn't like is take that big final fight when they're moving the gunship through. Because I have no stakes in the villains as villains, it really kind of felt like you're this big hurrah moment of all of the Na'vi from all the different tribes just going and dying. Like it was just excessive. Like, and again, I get it. I get what they're going for, but it didn't feel like nearly as weighty as it could because again, I felt nothing connected to any of the villains, and I feel like the movie kind of has that too because like Jake ends up taking down like the one ship that he's on in like 2 seconds. Like there is no grand thing happening in the fight with the villains because again, that's not really what it's focused on. But I don't know.
I honestly think that it's not that big of a problem. But I mean, obviously, if it's a bigger problem to you,
it's not that these individual elements are bad to me. It's that I think this is part of, and I'm trying to like boil down what I think is part of what doesn't work for the pacing and the stakes.
Absolutely, yeah, no, and I would tend to agree that that's honestly one of the biggest detractors from the pacing and the way, like you said, it raises its stakes and everything. I think if it were to nail the villain in this, I think it would be a perfect movie.
Yeah, because take like the bomb run that they're going for. I don't feel any like, oh my gosh, they've got to stop the bomb run.
I mean, I feel that way.
I don't know, because I just didn't feel like it ever actually felt like any real threat to like the big tree, because the only reason they were going after, I forget, what is it called? The life tree?
The soul tree, I think it was.
Something like that. And because it never felt like the villains had any actual reason to go after it other than, oh, they're gathering around it.
Well, I mean, they knew it served like a great cultural significance to like the Na'vi.
Yeah,
like they literally do a whole speech about how they're gonna like destroy their culture.
I know, but I don't know. Do you get what I'm saying?
No, I get what you're saying, but it's just like not as big of a problem for me personally. Which, I mean, I rated it a half star higher than you, so
yeah,
it makes sense.
Like I said, I really enjoy this movie. I really think it works pretty darn well overall. I'm just like this is one of the things that I think doesn't work, and one of the reasons especially mass audiences now get bored with it. Yeah,
it's kind of like that. What am I thinking of? I'm trying to think of like a good example of a past movie that does this. It's like that thing where a movie performs really, really well, and then the concepts in it become reused so often that it feels like it's cliche watching it again. I think Psycho has stuff like that. Like the elements of that have been rehashed in horror so often. Going back to watch Psycho, you're like, wow, derivative much. But I think this kind of suffers from that, like coming back to it, because like I said, it's a very influential film to like sci-fi action blockbusters.
No, and I think
and that's why the villain kind of sticks out like a sore thumb now, because as a medium, we've had like better examples of this good layered, of this type of villain done better.
Yeah, I don't know, and I get that, but like I do think it's interesting that this movie was, I don't know, the cultural place this movie holds in general is weird. Really weird, because like obviously so I've been alive the entire time it has been out, and I remember when it came out. And I remember everybody going and seeing it.
I was about to say, I was like 7 years old when this came out. It was so weird.
And I remember, like, even young me, I remember just so many people talking about this movie and talking about, like, in school and everything, like, just stuff about this movie.
Yeah. I mostly remember hearing about the VFX in it, honestly.
And I think it's interesting that it holds such a cultural place as it did as I grew up, because eventually it kind of just, like, wore off. Nobody talked about it.
Yeah. It's weird.
Like, and that's the interesting thing when they announced that they were gonna finally do the sequel.
5 sequels, Mike.
5 sequels. Like, the cultural mindset has shifted so drastically from that late 2000s, early 2010s mindset of like pop culture filmmaking.
We're living in a post-in-game society, Mike.
that it's a really like weird and kind of hard movie to go back to, I think, for mass audiences.
Absolutely. And I actually have a prediction. I think tons of people obviously loved it when it came out, and the pendulum is kind of swung to where general audiences are kind of like,
that's overrated.
Avatar, overrated, dumb blue movie. And then I have a feeling the pendulum's going to swing back now as hype builds up for the second one.
Yeah,
I think people are going to be like, okay.
I've already seen people start to get like pretty hyped for the second one.
And I mean,
I'm starting to get.
I was about to say I'm getting hyped for the second one. I love this movie.
Yeah, and I was about to say, and I've never really thought about Avatar any more than, wow, that was an interesting movie the first time I watched it.
Yeah, exactly. I was kind of like, I think I fell asleep the first time I watched this movie.
No, see, I was into it, but I do remember the first time I watched it being bored.
Yeah, exactly. I was not bored this time around, I will say.
I was bored in like a couple moments.
I mean, my tastes have changed so drastically since then, but yeah.
But no, I do think culturally this is a very interesting movie. Mm-hmm. And I'm very interested to see how Way of Water performs.
Right? I don't know what's gonna happen.
Do you have? This is kind of an interesting question. I didn't want to I was trying to avoid it just because I think it's very interesting for this movie specifically and the way it's structured. But do you have a favorite scene or sequence? I say that, and I'll preface this with saying, I think it's interesting asking this question because one of the things that's actually very interesting about this movie is that it flows extremely well.
Yeah,
scene
right?
to scene.
The scene-to-scene pacing is really good.
It's another one of those movies where I'm not sitting there yes, this sequence, this chunk here. Everything is just kind of this, and then this, and then this. And it keeps that going for, I mean, obviously with visible act breaks, essentially.
Yeah.
But it keeps that going for almost 3 hours, which is very impressive.
I think, honestly, it would have to be, narrow it down a little bit. It would have to be some scene between Jake and Neytiri. As weird as it is, as weird as their dynamic is in this movie, all of the scenes between them, I think, are
really
perfect.
Well as
yeah, they work so well.
Okay, this is gonna sound so stupid, but for some reason, it stood out in my young mind so much. The hair sex scene.
Dude, okay, I will say, Micah.
I just remembered this vividly. You said Avatar, and I would think of that weird hair sex scene.
Micah, that scene is so beautiful. Please.
No, it really is. And actually, I was thinking about this while we were watching it, and I was like, that concept of sex in terms of just connecting with somebody's body completely and completely feeling everything they feel is actually a really beautiful
I was about to say, I'm like, Micah,
sex.
say what you will about how goofy this movie is. The sex scene in this movie is so beautiful.
It's
and I wish more sex scenes were like it, honestly.
Genuinely beautiful sci-fi take on sex.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. It's so hilarious that it took James Cameron's Avatar to give us a beautiful sci-fi
like a positive view on sex in a movie. That's pretty rare.
Right? Such a military movie. Yeah. Really,
dude, I still thought that I sent it to Haley because I just thought it was so funny, this scene where he's like, did you mate with this woman? And she was like, she was essentially like, we had sex in front of the sacred tree, it's done.
Oh my god.
Sorry, I didn't mean to. but I just thought that line was so unhinged and funny.
Right? But yeah, no, it would have to be one of the scenes between them because I mean, the dynamic between their characters is the bread and butter of this movie and why all the world building feels so natural.
No, I do think they as characters for some reason work really well.
It's so good. Shout out to James Cameron.
Jake on paper is kind of an annoying character.
Right? That's what I'm saying. It's kind of a miracle that it works.
No, I kind of agree.
It has to be one of their
scenes probably being the best. I think one of my favorite scenes, which is really weird that it's one of my favorite scenes, I didn't expect it, was actually the banshee taming scene.
That is a really good scene. The way it's just so good.
And actually, I think the tree sex scene is one of my favorite.
I was about to
scenes in the
say,
movie.
thinking back on this,
yeah, and thinking about it, like there's a reason the scene stuck with me. Like besides me thinking about how goofy it was.
Yeah.
But like the reason, like I remembered it so well is it's genuinely an emotionally powerful, kind of beautiful scene.
I was about to say it's one of the most memorable and powerful beats in the movie.
Even
which is so bizarre.
The conversation before it, and like the way it kind of approaches their relationship. I was just watching a Breadsword video, his one on Howl's Moving Castle.
Yeah, and
he talks about in that video, both in Howl's Moving Castle and oh gosh, what's that David Lean movie? Brief Encounter.
Yeah,
and Brief Encounter, how it handles love as kind of
Brief Encounter
as so kind good. Of a thing that kind of springs upon you. And I think this movie kind of also does that in a really perfect way.
Yeah,
because
I would tend to agree.
Jake and why did I just lose her name?
Natari.
Yeah,
I think that's her name.
I think that's her name. Hold on, let me check that. Natari, yeah. Like
I was so proud of myself.
The way their characters go about it's not like super cliche powered of them being like the romance build up. Like it doesn't feel like it's trying to force a romance in any way, and then it sort of happens, but in the way it happens and the way they frame it, it actually works really emotionally well, right? And in a really powerful story way.
So good.
So that's cool.
We love to see it, Mika.
Not saying it's like as good as David Lean's Brief Encounters.
Brief Encounters, that's a hard standard to reach.
But no, I was just watching that video, so it made me think of that kind of take on framing love in a movie, and I think it definitely frames love like that in this. It frames like love and their romance as again another integral part of the nature, which is why they essentially do it in front of Mother Nature. Yeah.
No, like I said, I honestly might cite the sex scene as my favorite scene. Like the conversation in front of the tree, all that. It's what I view as the core of this movie, and it works really, really well.
Yeah.
Speaking of
which is goofy.
Another David Lean movie, Mika. This is actually a good segue. I wanted to talk about how action blockbusters have kind of not reached this cinematic scale since Avatar, I think. Not one that I've seen anyway.
Well, one really...
The scale is something I wanted to bring up.
The scale of Lawrence of Arabia.
Yeah, Lawrence of Arabia. That was my segue. No, I forgot to mention the name of the movie.
No, it's very interesting to me in general, the landscape of blockbusters. And I think we're in a terrible landscape for blockbusters, but I think we're coming back around, honestly.
Yeah,
like, I think we're...
Something like Dune is a step in the right direction.
No, like genuinely there's been a lot of blockbusters lately that I think are really good. I think it was just like late 2010s was really rough for blockbusters.
Yeah.
When somehow we came off of like the Pirates of the Caribbean movies, Avatar, like so many
the 2000s
so many grand scale blockbusters, even stuff like Lord of the Rings, so many things was so like such big scale that really only point back to on scale wise stuff like the Lawrence of Arabia, like 60s, somewhat into the 70s age of like massive
just really sprawling blockbusters.
Which I think is really interesting that we've kind of had like that period, and then like late 70s
it goes in
and
cycles, Mika.
It goes into all of that, and we don't really get anything. Like we start to get like blockbusters back in the 80s, and I mean technically like they weren't quote unquote invented as blockbusters until the 70s and 80s. But like you didn't have, even in all of those 80s movies, they're very much their own thing. They're not really that grand scale that we would get back to in the 2000s.
I just thought it was interesting because Avatar feels so sprawling, and I haven't watched a action blockbuster that's felt this way in forever. And besides like Dune, and even then, like Avatar feels so like engulfing. I don't know how to describe it.
I think honestly,
It's weird.
It's the way Avatar gets you into its world is one of its strongest things, because quite frankly, I think it does even a better job than something like Dune. And I
exactly,
absolutely love Dune.
I was thinking about specifically the falling, when the tree falls in this movie. The way it's shot, I'm like, this reminds me a lot of how they shoot Scale and Dune, actually.
Yeah, no, it's very similar filmmaking wise.
A lot of the ship stuff, like when they're flying around and stuff, feels very similar to Dune as well. So,
yeah,
interesting.
No, and like I said, it kind of feels like Diet Dune.
Yeah,
with Jake. Maybe,
except for Jake's the good guy.
No, but maybe Jake will lead a holy war in his name
in the second movie.
I want to
Avatar Messiah.
James Cameron get on making this a full on Dune spinoff.
That would be really funny, actually.
Have him be like, guys, we've got to start the war against the human race. We've got to genocide the human race.
Great idea. But yeah, no, just something to note. I thought it was interesting because, like, just while watching it, it's just a very it's a movie that kind of washes over you.
You know, I will say, hold on. Say something else for a second.
Interesting. I like the little light up jellyfish guys. Did you notice how the Navi's veins glow when the little jellyfish is on?
Dude, the amount of tiny details in the world.
That was pretty cool.
Is really, really cool.
Yeah, I don't know. What else? The little dogs are freaky, man. The little like hellhounds on the planet. It has kind of a similar creature design to Cloverfield in some of its things. Like, it has a kind of almost an insect aspect to a lot of its mammals and stuff. Pretty cool. Something to note. I like the little spiral plants that when he touches them, it's like foom. They make a funny sound. It's like foom.
Yeah, so what I was looking for was release dates of movies while we were looking at this, because I wanted to say that honestly, I think this was the last of the 2000. Like, I mean, obviously it's 2009.
I mean, it's 2009, pretty late in the game.
But like, I think this was the last one. Yeah, because so all the Pirates of the Caribbean trilogy was done before this. Mm-hmm. You had Deathly Hallows Part 2.
Yeah.
Planet of the Apes. Ooh. But like, there's not a whole lot of like, and even Planet of the Apes, those movies weren't like huge when they came out. Like, after Avatar, there's not a whole lot of those big blockbusters anymore. Besides, I mean, like, the Avengers happened in 2012.
Once you hit the Avengers, it all goes downhill, really.
And the Avengers was kind of as influential, really, as these kind of movies. Absolutely. For blockbusters, and it really changed the landscape of how movies got made, and not entirely for the better. In my opinion,
there's some good stuff.
No, there's a lot of good stuff.
I think the Avengers is a good movie.
No, I think it is too, and I think a lot of early Marvel movies are good movies.
They learned the wrong lessons from the Avengers' success.
Yeah, and as things went on, it felt like they just kept learning the wrong lessons, right, despite some good movies sprinkled throughout.
Absolutely, I think I don't want to like trash on the MCU. I think it's produced a lot of perfectly fine movies. Yeah, no, and some really good ones, some great ones. Yeah. But I don't know. It's a kind of a bleak landscape for film.
From then on out, looking at the movies that I'm looking at, like, you had a lot of, we kind of dipped our toes into a lot more like drama, kind of dramatic, epic kind of things, like in terms of like Interstellar and like stuff like that, like Inception,
talk about cinematic scale,
and like
about Interstellar, my man.
But like, we lost kind of that like fun blockbuster thing that wasn't something like the MCU.
Yeah.
If we really haven't gotten that feeling, that full on like feeling again until recent times, like I said, with like I think that Batman even feels like it, despite it being another superhero movie, and Dune.
I think Dune really is the best example of something like that.
And even West Side Story and Licorice Pizza feel very like pulpy.
Yeah, I was about to say, how does Licorice Pizza have the scale that you're talking about? You're just talking about general vibes, I guess.
Well, for those two specifically, the fact that they feel very pulpy and blockbuster-y.
Yeah, I could see that.
But yeah, no, I think it's very interesting looking over at the cultural landscape of the quote unquote blockbuster and how it's adapted different elements from different major movies, and how it kind of rises and falls with different times. And
Yeah.
I'm very happy as the landscape goes forward for blockbusters. And I really think Avatar is kind of the culmination of the 2000s blockbuster.
Right. No, I was about to say everything that's like good about Avatar is like the best stuff about the 2000s blockbusters, and I don't know. I
The
feel like
Pirates of the Caribbean trilogy is better though.
It is. I will say. I think Black Pearl's better than Avatar. Dead Man's Chest is better than Avatar.
The only one I don't think is better than Avatar is At World's End.
At
But
World's
as a,
End,
as a total
I'm
trilogy,
a little torn on World's End, honestly.
Okay, well, it has similar problems
Yes,
to Avatar.
yeah, exactly. But yeah, no, I feel like it's kind of weird because we've talked about the cultural impact of Avatar just as much as we've talked about the movie itself. But I think it really, I think honestly, it does a good job at highlighting the film's strengths and weaknesses. I wanted to mention, I think Sigourney Weaver's great in this. I think the main guy, who am I thinking of? The guy who plays Jake.
Sam Worthington.
He's pretty great in this, honestly. Like his non-Avatar scenes are a little weird, I think. Not like in a bad way necessarily. They just feel a little weird. But I guess that's just a testament to his mocap performance, honestly.
You know what I wish they spent more time on? I wish they spent more time doing like kind of like Dune-esque framing for the story, because they have that line at the beginning where he talks about after he got the injury, he kept having dreams about flying before, like, while the screen is on black, and I'm like, ooh, yeah, give me more stuff like this.
Yeah, no, I can see that. That's funny though. The Dune.
Listen, I love Dune.
He dreamed about having a girlfriend who lived in the desert. But yeah, no. Shout out to this film's mocap. I mentioned while we were watching it that even though the CGI hasn't aged flawlessly, like you can still obviously tell that it
looks like a really, really, really good video game.
Yeah, I was about to say, it looks like an absolutely like blow your mind great video game by today's standards. And honestly, I'll take it because the big thing I wanted to mention, I mentioned the mocap performance. The amount of fluid motion they're able to capture in the mocap in this is like unprecedented. I haven't seen mocap this good ever.
The way the Na'vi move feels nothing but natural.
Exactly. It's crazy. I don't know how they did it. I don't know how they got the faces to move as smoothly as they do. It's crazy.
And even their body structure is so much thinner than humans. So it's very weird. Like, they have really long, pretty thin limbs, but they never feel like awkward or uncomfortable as characters. And really, I think the only other thing that we can talk about, because I think we've toppled most of the movie,
just about what I wanted to. Yeah,
is really just how straight up impressive this movie is on a technical landscape. Like,
right?
I know people are like, "Oh, that's so over talked about," but like, it genuinely, the work that James Cameron and his team went through. I mean, I know James Cameron has one of the best VFX teams in general.
I was about to say he spent so much freaking money on this movie. So much.
But like, what it accomplishes, especially for the time, is really, really, really impressive.
Absolutely.
Because even in the scenes where on a texture level it may not look as real as CGI does now, if it's actually not rushed, because there's some great CGI
absolutely.
now. I think in terms of how it's integrated into the movie, works so well that it doesn't even, like, it never matters. So take like something like I guess The Host is a good example for what I'm talking about. The Host. And this is an extreme example in the opposite direction of a really bad looking CGI creature.
Man, yeah, The Host does not look
working
great.
well in the movie because of the way it interacts physically with the world.
Absolutely. I was about to say that's really a testament to the cinematographer on The Host. and this is the Bong Joon-ho movie, The Host,
Yeah.
for context.
Because the creature in The Host looked really bad.
I was about to say, the model for it does not look great. The way they rig it does not look great.
I mean, clearly the movie did not have a big budget.
No, obviously not. Like, nothing against them. I love The Host. I think it's fantastic.
But the way the cinematography and the CG artists got it to interact.
Mm-hmm. It gives it a real presence in the movie, and it kind of makes up for the low polyness of the monster in that movie.
And I think, again, that was just an extreme thing to illustrate like the interaction of the CG with the world and with even the human characters.
Yeah.
And I think that's where this movie CG is absolutely outstanding, even beyond how it looks visually.
All of the creatures that my brain is like, oh yeah, those don't exist, obviously, but they do a really great job of giving them a real sense of physical presence throughout the entire movie.
I've ridden a banshee in Animal Kingdom.
Animal Kingdom.
I think they're
that
real.
ride rocks. Dude.
I think they're real.
Honestly, I forgot to mention this. I did want to go over this before we finish. Is there anything else like movie wise?
No, that was okay. About. That sums up pretty much everything I have to say about it.
We mentioned that it was like a Animal Kingdom ad, and like we said at the beginning, visiting Pandora really it actually has positively influenced my view of Avatar. For me. And I feel like for our critical integrity, I feel like I need to mention that, because going on like the Navi River cruise and the Banshee
Navi
ride
River
and
cruise
stuff.
Is so cool.
It's so cool. Oh my gosh.
Flight of Passage is so cool.
I was about to say Flight of Passage is so cool. It really gave me just like, it didn't change what was in the movie. It just gave me a nice perspective on just how special Pandora's world building and the beauty of like this movie in general is.
I don't think this movie, I mean, going to Pandora has skewed my view, like given me an uncritical thought on the world, and on the movie, because I mean, I didn't even change my rating from when I watched it originally. But I think what it does do is show you on a real physical scale how well like this movie does what this movie does well.
Right. The fact that they were able to take a 2009 most like majority CGI action movie and turn it into such a fully fleshed out section of a theme park. It's
one
kind
of the most immersive sections of anywhere in Disney.
Yeah.
And dude, the floating rocks are a feat of engineering.
If you go to Disney World and you've never been there before and you're a movie fan, that's a very specific set of requirements. But I would recommend going to Animal Kingdom so you could go see the Pandora section. It's very cool.
I honestly, like, and maybe this is a hot take too in terms of movie areas, I honestly think it's a lot better than Galaxy's Edge.
Oh yeah, I would say so.
Not even just like, oh, Star Wars versus that, but just like in an immersion and layout and theme park.
Seeing the animatronic Navi in those sections is so cool.
It's so okay. Going on a little riverboat and then having this massive Navi next to you.
He's so big.
Is really, really impressive. And even in the line for Flight of Passage when you have Jake's Navi in the tank.
Oh my gosh, that's so cool. Dude, see? Okay. You should have just set aside a section to talk about Animal Kingdom.
Okay, and I'm planning on I'm planning on just myself going back sometime, because I didn't get to do everything in Animal Kingdom that I wanted to, and I've literally been I don't know, ever since we went on this trip, I've just been really wanting to go back to Disney.
Yeah. That's how it works, Mike. That's how they get you.
But it's so nice to be there. So I think I'm going to like pay and go by myself to Animal Kingdom.
Nice.
Which I'm very excited about.
Go ride the river boat ride a bunch of times in Pandora. Sure. That would be pretty good.
And I'm gonna specifically go to Animal Kingdom.
Yeah.
And I'm so excited to go back to the Avatar section and ride those rides again and just be there again at night. It's so freaking cool.
Right.
I don't know. It's really a feat of theme park design.
Yeah. No, I would. Yeah. I mean, it is. I mean, that's the whole reason I brought it up. But yes, that's Avatar. Anything else you want to add, Micah?
No, I think
All right.
I think that's a good way to put it.
All right, we're excited for Way of the Water. I think
I think it's Way of the Water. It's like Way of the Water.
I think it's Way of the Water. That sounds right. But yeah, we're excited for the sequel. Go watch Avatar. I think it's a great movie.
Avatar: The Way of the Water.
Got him. Yes.
Now let's get into our what we watched segment.
Absolutely.
All right, so for those of you who don't know, the What We Watched segment is a little ending segment where we talk about everything that we have watched movie-wise since the last episode, and if we actually do weekly episodes, it's not abhorrently long.
Got him. It's the good strategy.
We're going from the 9th.
The 9th of May.
The 9th to the 15th. Is a pretty, it's not that much. We're good.
A nice
We're good.
range.
We're not going to be here forever. And what did we watch after we recorded the podcast, Ravi?
After we finished the podcast, we watched Sam Raimi's 2009 film, coincidentally.
Whoa.
Drag Me to Hell.
Cool film.
Very, very good. I'd never seen it before. I was really looking forward to watching more of Sam Raimi's movies because I adore the Spider-Man trilogy he'd worked on and The Quick and the Dead.
Yeah, I had watched it, and I talked about it last episode briefly, I think.
Yeah, you mentioned it.
I wanted to watch it again with you since you didn't watch it. And I think it honestly worked a bit more for me on a rewatch.
I could see that, yeah.
It's a movie where you really just have to kind of let go and let it be goofy.
Mm-hmm.
But it's really fun. It's not as good as I want it to be, and I think that's my least favorite part. Is it's kind of disappointing every time I watch it.
Yeah, I think it mismanages some of its elements in a pretty major way, but I think other than that, it's really pretty much perfect. Yeah,
I gave it 4 stars.
I give it a 4.5. I absolutely adore it, and I really need to see more of Sam Raimi's movies because I really love all of his stuff that I've seen.
And I'll briefly shout out, I watched the short film As We Hold Hands. It was really pretty. I don't know, I like supporting like small short films. So go check that out if you want. It's very cool. A nice little romance short film.
And then on the 11th, I watched the Netflix original film Gunpowder Milkshake.
What a lame name.
Which I was looking forward to, mostly because of its cast, which was pretty good. I don't know. What to say about Gunpowder Milkshake itself, though? I think I said it has a very flimsy screenplay, and that's honestly, I think, its biggest problem. It just doesn't hold any water from a writing perspective. But the action direction's really good a lot of the time, and the performances are pretty good, so I don't know. The production design was neat too. I don't know. It's a novel movie. I wish it was a bit better. I think a lot of its attempts at comedy don't really work all that well either. So I don't know. It was weird. I feel very wishy-washy about it because I like a lot of its elements a lot. It feels like...
Is it one of those movies that's just kind of like
it
it's
feels
not
like
great, but it's like...
It feels like Diet Quentin Tarantino is what it feels like. It feels like it feels like someone wanted to make a Tarantino movie and then got Netflix's funding, and they were like, "Oh crap!" But yeah, no, it was. I liked it, but it wasn't great. I gave it a 3.5 out of 5.
Then we watched Regular Show the movie.
Nice.
We have been watching a lot of Regular Show lately.
Yeah.
But we finally made it to the canonical spot where this takes place.
Yeah.
And I don't know.
It's fine.
It's fine.
Yeah. I think I would argue, like, in the scope of the show, it's fine. I would argue on its own merits, it's a pretty great little movie, but...
Yeah, I don't know. It's just because it feels so, like, it feels exactly like an episode of the show.
It just feels like a long
quality
episode of the show.
And story. So it's just like, and I'm like, yeah. And it's not even like my favorite episode of the show if we're talking episodes of the show.
Right, yeah.
So I still think it has like all of the good elements that the show has because it's a really good show. But it's like it's no better or worse than the show's best and worst episodes.
Yeah. I mentioned in my review that it's finally an on-screen wholesome depiction of male friendship and brotherhood in like life, and I'm like, that's the good stuff. A regular show at its best, that's what it's all about.
Right, regular show at its best is good friends.
Exactly.
Being good friends.
Exactly. which I think the movie does pretty well too.
Yeah, I gave it a 3.5.
I gave it a 4 out of 5. I thought it was pretty good.
Then we went to theaters.
The theater,
and
we saw the Nope trailer on the big
oh,
screen.
We saw Don't Worry,
Don't
Darling,
Worry, Darling.
and Nope trailer. Maybe cinema is saved.
Yes. No, oh my gosh, I jumped so many times during the Nope trailer.
During the Nope trailer.
I did. It's so good, Micah.
I can't wait for it to come out, but that's kind of funny.
That's good editing.
But we watched
Micah.
Firestarter is what we actually went to go watch, not just the trailers.
Yes. Firestarter, the new one.
Yeah, the new one.
It was
Zac Efron's in it.
fine, I guess. The biggest, I don't know why, but it reminds me a lot of the Netflix original film. What is that called? Power? What is it?
Yeah.
Is it just called
Project
Power?
Power?
Project Power. That's what I'm thinking of. It reminds me a lot of that.
I could see that.
It's like solid from certain perspectives. Like its technical filmmaking stuff is actually pretty cool. A lot of its cinematography is nice.
Yeah.
The VFX look pretty good. The central performances aren't bad.
No, I actually liked Zac Efron
It's
in
just such a really bad screenplay.
Yeah. No,
that drags it
is.
down so hard.
It kind of makes me sad, but it's one of those movies that because like most of its elements are unapologetically fine, and
Yeah.
it has a really bad screenplay, that it's one of those movies that I'm probably never gonna think about again.
Yeah, I mean, I'll think about some of its visual aspects sometimes, probably. The way it portrays its superpowers, quote unquote, is really cool in a lot of aspects. But like, honestly, I'm probably never gonna think about this movie again outside of that.
It's just not that great.
It really needs a lot of better character work, better pacing, better structure,
Better most everything.
Yeah,
except for like a couple elements.
yeah.
Though shout out to flashback Zac Efron for probably being the best Zac Efron has ever looked.
Wow, that's kind of funny. I said in my review, add this to the pile of passable movies that are adaptation of Stephen King novels.
I said in my add this to the pile of movies where Haley is right that movies hate cats.
It's true. I don't know why do they kill the cat in this, man? The screenplay writing
They like hard kill the cat.
the screenplay writing book is called Save the Cat.
Brutally kill the cat.
See, Micah, that's the problem. They didn't read the screenwriting book Save the Cat. So they wrote a bad screenplay.
Then on the 14th, we watched the 2002 film.
We watched the greatest movie
Equilibrium.
ever made. Is what we watched, Micah.
Equilibrium was kind of like a movie writing off of the success of The Matrix.
I mean, it's very derivative of like The Matrix and stuff like that, stuff in that vein, like 90s action and dystopia.
And it's really, really funny that it's good.
It's so good. It's so good, guys.
like it's editing, it's cinematography, it's pacing, it's action, it's characters.
I don't know what they were on when they wrote this.
Dude,
I don't know how it works.
The editing, man.
The editing is so good.
It's kind of unhinged that this movie works.
The choreography is so good too. I don't know. Christian Bale is amazing here. Like, honestly, might be my favorite performance of his.
You just need to watch more 2000s Christian
I know.
Bale.
Apparently, he's like rocking it in the 2000s, man. I need to watch more of that. But yeah, no, I don't know. I was head over heels in love with Equilibrium. I think it's great. Also, very similar to another 2002 film that came out, Minority Report, which I also very much enjoy. They would make a killer double feature. That was my only point.
I think it's interesting that like aesthetically it is extremely
very similar
to
yeah.
Minority Report, and like it's like Minority Report via The Matrix.
Exactly, yeah.
It's really weird. Like,
also, supposedly this is a adaptation of 1984, which I've never read, but like
according to the IMDb trivia page, it's like a vague adaptation of 1984 because 1984 just has the same ideas.
Yeah,
but it's very different.
I don't know. If you are a fan of stuff like Minority Report or The Matrix or something, you'll probably enjoy Equilibrium.
Yeah, I don't know why most people are like, yeah, it's okay.
Yeah, no, man. I gave this a 5 out of 5. I think it's pretty darn close to perfect.
I gave it a 4.5. I think there are a couple problems I have with it, but like it's really
It's just
good.
really
Like,
solid
it's
action
really well
filmmaking,
paced.
dude.
It's got great action. Like, I don't get it. But
Good
yeah,
stuff,
good
my
movie.
man.
On the 14th, I also watched Along for the Ride, a 2022 Netflix original,
Whoa.
which it honestly wasn't the worst thing in the world.
The
you
worst
know?
thing there.
It wasn't a bad Netflix original. It was
Most of them aren't bad, Micah. Most of them are just painfully mediocre.
it was pretty mediocre. There were some fun. Actually, I think what's funny about this is I think its strongest standpoints were its filmmaking.
Really?
Yeah,
That's kind of funny.
Its weakest elements, I think, were its cast and its screenplay.
Dang.
But like, I think it looks good. It's pretty well edited, if I remember correctly.
That's rare to find in Netflix movies, man.
It's got a decent soundscape if
Ooh.
they didn't overuse pop songs, unfortunately.
Oh.
But like, it's on a screenplay level, it's kind of meh, and
Yeah.
the performances are kind of meh.
A shame.
But I give it 3 stars.
All right.
I put it was in fact not bad.
Got him. And then on the 15th, we watched the 2007 film Rendition.
Weird movie.
Weird movie, yeah. It seems to be a reoccurring criticism. I swear I have more criticisms of movies than just bad screenplay.
But this does have kind of.
But this does kind of have a rough screenplay. The cinematography and lighting, though.
Yeah, no,
Good
the
stuff.
cinematography and lighting for some reason are really great.
Yeah,
in this
they're
movie,
great.
But there's not really that many other great elements of the movie.
Honestly, if this movie was just its third act, I would like it a lot more. That's where all of its strongest scenes are to me.
Yeah,
That's when all of its leads are doing the best job. That's when the screenplay is at its most palatable.
But it's so muddled.
It's so muddled,
its
dude.
themes are really poorly
It has
handled.
no sense of momentum
And,
for like 90% of the movie.
It's kind of boring.
Yeah.
And it's weird, and I don't really even fully know what it's trying to say.
Yeah, it's a very odd movie. Reese Witherspoon was a really weird casting choice for this too, I will say. I don't know.
What is it actively trying to say about any of its elements?
Torture bad, I guess.
Yeah, but it hardly obviously, but
like government torture bad, I think. I don't know.
I don't know. I thought it was very weird the way it actually framed the Egyptian people.
Yeah.
And like the way it used because it was acting like, oh, the U.S. is taking it to these uncivilized people who will torture them. And like they never really grow beyond that weird thing.
I don't know. It's very wishy-washy, and a lot of it's things it chooses to touch on.
Like, is it saying that the Egyptian people are actually just genuinely more barbaric than us?
Right.
Because it kind of feels like it's saying that, which is terrible.
It reminds me a lot of a Don Cheadle movie I watched a little while ago. I'm trying to... There it is. Traitor. Similar problems, actually.
Is it vaguely racist feeling? Because this movie feels vaguely racist.
I was going to touch on it because it does a much better job at portraying terrorism and the forces behind it than this does. So if you're thinking about watching Rendition, go watch Traitor instead. Don Cheadle is good in it.
Guys,
that was my
Jake
only
Gyllenhaal
point.
isn't even in the movie that much. Don't watch it for him.
Yeah, right. He's actually pretty good. Like I said, in the last half hour of this movie, it actually is a bit better. But
yeah, actually, one of the biggest things I didn't like is a lot of its framing of the Egyptian people, because I just kept on being like, what are these saying about the Egyptian people here?
What are you saying?
What are you saying?
Yeah.
I gave it 2.5.
I gave it a 3. It's, like I said, pretty solid from a technical perspective, just really needed a stronger sense of momentum and a better screenplay.
Yeah. Then on the 15th, we watched Woost Side Stewie.
Yes.
The new one.
Yeah.
The one we did in the podcast.
We did an episode about it, guys.
But we watched it with our mom this time.
Fun fact, I upped my rating to 5 stars this time.
It should have always
been no longer
5.
at a 4.5.
Even our mom, who never gives anything 5 stars, gave it 5 stars. It deserves to be a 5.
Also, another fun fact, this was my 2000th diary entry on Letterboxd.
That's crazy.
Letterboxd milestone. How many diary entries are you at now?
I'm at 1,769.
There you go. Who'd have thought it? But yeah, no. Cool movie. Very good.
Cool movie. Very fantastic movie.
Yeah.
And then we watched Avatar that very same day.
All right, so Micah, you want to talk about Avatar a little more?
Yeah, I mean,
go a little deeper.
Let's get in.
It's a pretty cool movie.
Let's get into the real discussion on Avatar.
Wow. But yeah, that was what we watched. That was our discussion on Avatar. We're looking forward to the sequel.
Yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed. Next week we're gonna get back at you with
Dawn of the
Planet of the Apes. I had to think about that.
Wow.
Rise, Dawn, which is what
the podcast's second Matt Reeves movie.
Yeah,
good stuff.
So look forward to that. Go watch some good movies.
Go watch Equilibrium, bro.
Go watch West Side Story.
Go watch West Side Story.
We didn't watch that movie, so
go see Avatar.
I can't like list off a bunch of.
Go see Drag Me to Hell.
If you have the opportunity, I know it is not that available to everybody, even to our family. It is not that easy to go do. Go to Animal Kingdom. That is my suggestion to you.
In Disney World, not Disneyland.
Disney World.
I don't know what Disneyland has an Animal Kingdom.
Does Disneyland have an Animal Kingdom?
Yeah, they do.
Oh, who knew?
A lot of the rides are actually really similar. I didn't think they had a Pandora section in Disneyland.
Yeah, go to Disney World, Animal Kingdom, and
go to the Pandora section and just sit there for a couple hours.
No, like genuine, it sounds like you're just joking, but like genuinely, one of the nicest parts of our day was like at one point we just kind of hung out in Pandora.
Also, shout out to Houston Coley. We got to hang out with him that day.
We got to meet him in person, which was very neat.
Very cool guy.
He's a very big Animal Kingdom connoisseur himself.
Connoisseur. Wow. Pretty funny.
Anytime I say anything about Animal Kingdom, he's like, yeah, Animal Kingdom.
But yeah, go watch Avatar too.
Yeah.
Big takeaway. And we'll catch you guys next week. Thanks for listening.
Bye.